Hey everyone, welcome back to Ctrl+Alt+Debate. Yes, I got the name right this time after last week's absolute piss up. So I'm glad I've done that. I was sitting here working that out before we started. I was like, I'm definitely going to say the right name of the actual channel this time. I'm Gar, as you already know. And today we're cranking up the difficulty to hard mode. Yes, episode 4, hard mode. Joining me, as always, is the one and only Kraken. Hello, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, all good. Ready to do another high racing debate, looking at some of the interesting aspects of the gaming industry. Let's drop some of those truth bombs and laugh at our own misfortune, probably at some point in the podcast. So let's look at what we've got ahead of us. We're just going to briefly look over a summary. Segment 1 will be exposing corporate greed. Yes, our good friends in the big corporate industry, we're going to be smacking them and clapping their cheeks and bringing them to justice, looking at the reasons, looking at all the bad things that they do and pointing out what we think that they should do in terms of cleaning up their act. Segment 2, we'll be tackling sexism in gaming. Specifically, we'll be looking at girls that game in competitive sport, esports, and or just in competitive ladder gaming, and what they have to deal with, and what we can do to be better people in general, and stop giving women a hard time when they're just trying to have some fun. Segment 3, we're going to be looking at gaming facts again. We always do gaming facts just because it's so interesting, and we have so much content to look through, so we'll have a couple more, 2 to 3 more gaming facts that we'll be talking about and discussing. Segment 4, we'll be unleashing some more hot takes. This one's always a fan favorite for people that are watching this. We've had some good feedback, so we'll be looking at some specifics from grinding culture and also the insanity of skill-based matchmaking. Yes, we all know how many people have problems with that, playing their favorite MOBA or shooter online, so we'll be jumping into those details. And finally, segment 5, the grand finale, we'll be looking at try-hard gaming. Yes, you elitists out there going around telling people what to do when they're just trying to have fun, leave them alone, let them have their fun. But yeah, we'll be looking at the reasons why that can ruin gaming, and there's a place for it in some places, and there's places not to have it.
Why did the name of that change? I mean, it's just straight up elitism, really, isn't it? Why is it try-harding now?
Well, so the kids today, sweaty is another thing now. They use that sweaty gaming. Sweat. Yeah, so if you're being sweaty, people that is try-harding, it's all the same thing.
Grim.
Yeah, so buckle up and join me and Kraken as we dive headfirst into hard mode. Let's get the chaos started. Without further ado, we'll look straight into segment 1. How corporate greed is killing gaming. So yes, this section, as you probably are aware, it will be looking at 3 major AAA studios, and we'll be discussing the problems that exist within those studios and dissecting each of those ones. The first big bad corporate company we'll be looking at is, of course, Electronic Arts.
My personal favourite.
By favourite, you mean?
I mean enemy, sorry.
Yeah. I was like,
my favourite enemy.
We've got an EA spy amongst us. Yeah, so there's a couple of things really. Loot box controversies, obviously one of them. We've already discussed this in some detail in some of the previous episodes, so I'm not going to go too deep into loot box in general, but EA particularly has some absolute diabolical ones. The main one being Star Wars Battlefront 2, if you guys can remember back to that, with the ridiculous loot boxes to get some of the main characters from Star Wars, and it was just generally a mess. There's also the sports cash grabs. FIFA, Madden, NHL barely update but demand full price every year. Obviously, this is...
Those are ones I could never wrap my head around, because that's just insane, isn't it? I mean, it's a change of a character, but in reality, on their end, programming wise, it's just a few different stats and a picture, isn't it? And it's abysmal.
Yeah, people spend thousands on them as well, and then it's like, oh, next year here's another game, and start again, please spend several thousand more. It's disgusting behavior as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand it either. I'm 100% with you. And I think this is the one that myself and Kraken probably have a lot of a big opinion on, is how EA has picked up several of our favourite franchises and just murdered them till they're dead in the ground. Particularly, I think Command and Conquer. I think you had something to say about that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
Command and Conquer. You don't change the entire identity of a franchise and then number it as the next in the chapter. You know, it's just crap, in my humble opinion.
Well, elaborate. What do you mean? What exactly?
Well, it was a proper RTS, and then the latest one that they had done, was it 4? Yeah. It turned out to some weird bastardized mix-up between strategy and a MOBA. Like, it just, the map was tiny. Yeah, you're literally just wandering on a two-sided area, sending troops out from your mobile construction vehicle, which was literally a walking tank that was just spewing out guys. I mean, it was terrible. Like, there's no other way to put it. It wasn't Command and Conquer. Not even close.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They kind of change. They take things and then they inject their kind of really bad. I mean, I'm going to say this. I'm going to take this. I don't know if people, but EA don't know anything about video games. I'm sorry. They might think they do, but they don't know the market. Like, they make games that nobody wants to play or very few people like. They take a franchise that people already love and then they take away the fun and put in some corporate styled, like, oh, people will love this, and then nobody does. And it's a big problem. It's a legitimate problem, and they've done it to so many franchises that I'm surprised that they don't sit there and go, guys, it's amazing how many franchises we've had here at EA that have released just absolute stinkers, and then literally you don't hear from them again. That franchise is just dead.
Well, yeah, but this Command and Conquer especially was a hatchet job. It sort of comes out. Obviously, everyone mostly hated it. There were a few strange people out there that played and liked it, but the fact of the matter is, in terms of Command and Conquer fans, the real ones, they didn't like it, and so they just decided that means people don't want Command and Conquer anymore, and it's just been like off the radar since. So they've taken their weird, horrific version and gone, oh, well, the last one didn't do so well, so we're not going to make any more. Well, it didn't do so well because you changed it. So, I mean, it's ridiculous.
And then they shut down the studios after it's done badly, and they go, oh, you guys made a terrible game. So, well, that was your decision, EA, to like make the game that way. You could have continued on in a similar fashion to the previous popular games, but you just don't learn. And you continue to not learn and continue to not understand the industry or gamers in general. And that's their biggest problem, is not understanding gamers, and they're too busy like playing with the corporate greed aspect of how do we like make money out of people, how do we microtransaction someone into the ground. Like that's all they care about. And
yeah, exactly. I think their sports titles are actually floating them quite massively. All the little microtransactions they got in there, you could buy in-game currency in some of them, which I'm sorry, that is the most horrendous practice in a game, buying in-game currency. I mean, people used to do that in MMOs, I mean, still do, and again, if you got caught out, you'd be busted and, you know, probably have your account banned. But yeah, it's like, well, we can't let other people do it, so we'll do it for them.
Yeah.
it's
exactly.
a joke.
It is. That's a really good point, and I think these companies, like the thing is, they've been held to account. I was going to say, well, if you hold them to account, but people is constantly held to account, and nothing happens. All I can hope is that some of my favorite franchises are never bought out by EA or the likes of these companies and stay far away from games. I mean, the list is endless, honestly. Like, it goes on and on. I mean, look at is it BioWare? They bought BioWare, right?
Yeah.
Look at the state of BioWare now. I mean, that used to be one of the best companies in the industry. People looked up the BioWare, you know, when they were in their element during, you know, the early releases. I mean, Dragon Age in its early releases and all these types of things. And then once they took over, they just started bringing out these stinkers that no one wants. I mean, look at Anthem. It had so much potential, Anthem. And of it, BioWare, and it was made, you know, everyone thought it was going to be the best live service, and it looked so cool. And of course, EA just destroyed it with just all of the crap they had in it, and it just ruined the whole game. And honestly, like, it sounds like we're being vitriolic. That's because we are. I mean, I was gonna say something else, but then I just realized that it really is just a case of I just heavily dislike EA, and mainly for the same reason that Kraken's upset. Like when we were growing up, CNC was just the game. It was so awesome, and I loved the early Westwood Studio like Command and Conquer games. And when EA came and brought up the franchise, they just took a dump on it. And just left.
They didn't immediately take a dump on it.
No, they're the generals.
You've got to be 100% truthful and fair. So yeah, they had generals. 3 wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. Like it was still fun to play.
And then 4 came.
But then 4 was like, Jesus Christ. It's like they put a torch to it.
Yeah.
They were like, we don't want to do this anymore. Boom, gone. It was horrific.
Yeah. All right, well, that pretty much, I think we've been scathing enough on EA. We can probably look now to the next studio, which I can imagine people, anyone that's watching this from wherever they are, they probably already know which of these studios are going to be, because the main 3 are like, all of them are terrible, but just for the sake of clarity, like Studio 2 will be Activision Blizzard. Again, once a great company, prior to Activision buyout.
Yep.
Blizzard, you know...
It's like they had Pride in the past.
Oh, beyond that. I mean, look at some of their games are the biggest in the industry, and they still remain very prominent. But not thanks to Activision in any way, shape, or form. Isn't it Bobby Kotick was the guy that was the person who bought out, who's like literally one of the worst examples of people that have no idea about video games and only care about financial, you know, amounts being, you know, generated for the company to reach shareholder needs and all that. I mean, I understand business like has to be done, but not at the expense of just, you know, fleecing people. Yeah.
I mean, we sort of got it on another point in this, but a premium priced game should not have then, you know, additions via microtransactions.
No.
Sorry, stuff like Diablo 4. I mean, I get it. It's a live service, effectively, so there should be something in there. But I think skins and that sort of thing, honestly, you should be able to earn them in game. You know, as a sort of point of pride, like you did something to earn that. But people are running around with stuff that you can buy in the shop with points and whatever. They didn't concentrate as much, I don't believe, personally, in the gameplay, because it's very rinse and repeat from quite early on. Even during the story, you feel like you're being drawn out, like everything is being dragged along, and not at a good pace. So I've got to be honest, I just kind of got bored of it.
I mean, yeah, I mean Diablo 4 is a good example. So when they're charging like, what was it, 100 quid for expansions, I'm pretty sure one of the expansions was like 100 quid for the, you know, the get everything version. I mean, that's just madness, like insanity, like
digital ultra deluxe.
Yeah, but it's an expansion as well, which is just like they're just fleecing people because of the popularity of Diablo. And you know, right now, if you look at the numbers, like Diablo 4 is still doing well because people are looking at just the Steam numbers, but apparently a lot of people are not playing on Steam. But PoE is coming up on them, and I think it's only a matter of time before people probably switch over to PoE, like because of Activision Blizzard's like marketing schemes and stuff are just, it's bullshit, man. You know, and
PoE has a vastly more old school Diablo feel to it than Diablo itself, which is kind of laughable.
Well, exactly, because then they care about making a game rather than making money. This is the problem with all of these companies we're discussing. Like, yes, make money, but don't be greedy. Like, you can still make good money off people and make good games without the need to go over the top and cause a negative. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And you know, it's all these high price tags. Also, like they prey on people's addiction to these like franchises, or their loyalty. You know, Warcraft's massive. You know, people have been following it since whenever the first release was, like in the late 90s. You know, some people are heavily invested in their World of Warcraft character, and Activision Blizzard knows that and preys on them by releasing content that people want, because they want everything. And that's their biggest one. It's like Overwatch 2, was meant to be released as a PvE focused sequel, and then cancelled most of the PvE features, and then kept shoving in more monetization. That's just terrible. That is shockingly bad.
I mean, it was Overwatch 2 a paid title? Because I've got to be honest, that's not one I paid attention to.
You know what? I'm not sure. I think it was free. But the point was that they were adding this to now. You know, to be honest, Overwatch 2 is literally Overwatch 1 still. Like,
yeah. Well, that's the main problem, because I mean, I understand, because if we're going to compare Diablo and PoE 2 is a free to play, but you also obviously have skins and stuff in their store and like inventory expansions, but it is a free to play game. It is playable very much without paying, and that's the difference. You've got a game that's free that you can literally play without having to reach into your pocket. I mean, granted, there are quality of life increases that you can get by paying, but it's only small amounts for the extras. And then they've got this $70 base price game that also has these very same types of increases, like stash inventory size increase and all that sort of stuff. I mean, Jesus. What the hell? It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget they've got probably one of the biggest franchises in the industry with Call of Duty as well, because of the part that's all locked into it as well. And Call of Duty is another game where they just fleece people with the monetization / purchase stuff for your character kind of thing. And then, of course, they release a new Call of Duty, and they sort of repeat this process and other aspects, like that whole, spend money and then restart it and spend money kind of thing, which is just a cash cow situation. I mean, to be honest, Activision Blizzard, not as bad as EA, in my opinion, but they're still bad in many, many ways. And I wish they would clean up their act, because to me, a lot of their games are just soulless husks now that were nothing on the original conceptual games that they've got released in the early days of their development. You can only hope that it comes back one day, but right now they've got a long way to go.
And they kind of feel like an experiment in how to get extra money at the moment.
I mean, yeah, all of these guys are exercising that right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The corporate greed way, and until they change, I mean, it's capitalism at its finest, really. Well, and its finest and its worst.
Of course it is. Yeah, worst is probably the best way of putting it, to be fair.
Yeah. When I meant finest as in the worst of, the worst side of capitalism.
The finest shit.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the last, final corporate greed. Can you guess what it is, listeners? Probably you can. It's good old Ubisoft, that's right. Our friends.
Oh my
Ubisoft.
god!
Oh,
really?
Massive surprise.
Ubisoft?
I know.
No.
Yes, and another one of the corporate greed giants that literally just keep shelling out the same thing. Now, there might be a few people sitting in chat that will be quite upset with this take. It's a bit of a hot take, but Assassin's Creed is not good anymore. I'm sorry, that's my view. I used to love it as well. I was there at Altair and Assassin's Creed 1 and the Ezio Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 3 is, in my opinion, no, not 3, Black Flag, sorry. I didn't like Assassin's Creed 3, but Black Flag was the last decent Assassin's Creed game to me. And I know there's a lot of people that literally think it's the best thing ever, and fair enough. But to me, they've just become bloated. I mean, literally, the games now are just ridiculously massive, and it's just bloated with just rubbish content that's just thrown in there just to pad out the game.
Yeah, I mean, look at Far Cry. I think the Far Cry sort of has a formula that they've stuck with so much so that even changing the map and the story doesn't really do much for it, because you're still going places, capturing these points, releasing towns, defeating a fortress kind of thing. But it's always the same. And they need to find something different to make it more interesting. Otherwise, it's just a DLC for the previous Far Cry. Let's be honest.
Totally. What's your thoughts on the NFT and blockchain stuff that they did? What was it? Quartz? Yeah.
I honestly no clue. It's something that I stayed away from right from the get-go. To be honest,
they did a good job there. Trust me.
Yeah.
Like given the NFT, like it's built into the crypto system. These things where people buy pictures of a dog's face with a smiley thing on it, and they pay like $5,000 for it. And it's like, I've never understood NFTs. I still continue to not understand them. To me, they're just like a gift that you spend a fortune on, and you go, I owe the rights to this, but then someone can literally just save
I thought you were going to say gimmick.
No, it's just I don't understand. Like NFT, people could just save it and put it in their folder, and they've got a copy of it. Like it's
Yeah.
But maybe that's just pure ignorance. But people they've been trying to cash in on this NFT crap by like getting gamers to buy these sort of things that they own. I've got a picture of Ezio that's mine. I bought it off.
Is it not just a fancy name for you owning the rights to that picture?
It's exactly that. But
so if someone uses it, you can take them to court. But I mean
you could do, but they're normally just some little crappy sticker that no one cares about, and no one will ever use anyway. Exactly. It's just a way to just drum up money from nothing. Effectively, someone spent like 2 seconds making the NFT, and they go, just throw it away, and someone spent a fortune on it, and that's
people
money
jumped in, didn't they? So.
Yeah, well, it's their money. It's up to them, but it's not really great when it's feeding a corporate giant like Ubisoft. So please stop doing it, people. Please. The other thing is predatory monetization in a lot of their single player games. Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Skull and Bones. Now, Skull and Bones, that game was in a really good. I mean, the game is just an absolute disaster in all shapes and forms. I don't even think it's still going. If it is still going, it has been on absolute last legs. No one likes it. It was just rubbish. People played the beta and immediately just said, "Yeah, this is trash," and it's just been holding on for dear life.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's very much comparing old school games to now. And back then, we had cheat codes. Now, you got to have money to buy what it would be back in the day. That would just be a control pad input. It's kind of sad, and I think putting them in single player games is insulting to the players. What happened to all the old school stuff? You used to be able to. I mean, I think you could still do it in like Grand Theft Auto, can't you, in the single player game? But it ruins your game save. You can never get 100%. It's kind of like the developers fuck you to you for using cheats. But I understand in games like that. But older games used to have all sorts, like get extra lives and all this sort of stuff. And it's a single player game, so it doesn't hurt anyone. But now, you got to pay for these little microtransactions on what was that one? I think it was a Dead Space game, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but you could buy the blueprint for a game item that you couldn't actually get. You could get it in game, but much later on in the game. But you could pay to get it first thing when you first load it in.
Yeah, they do that in
that's disgusting.
Well,
that's absolutely disgusting.
It's no different than Final Fantasy 14, where you can power level a character to level 80. You pay 20 quid or whatever, just so you don't have to level it.
It's a joke. Those things, I really despise that.
The thing is, and this is an important thing, whilst you may not agree with that, there is unfortunately a market for that people. I mean, obviously,
of course there is. Yeah.
And until that, it's the same with the gacha. It won't die until people stop spending money on it, and unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be anywhere in sight in the near future. So, all you can do
just because people like something doesn't mean that it's good.
Oh no, totally, I agree. But it's unfortunately going to get in the way of there being a solution to some of these terrible problems that exist in the industry. And unfortunately, as much as we debate it, I don't think a lot of these problems are ever going to go away as long as people keep.
No. As long as people keep buying it, it'll just get worse and worse and worse in games. So
Yeah.
that's my personal humble take on it.
Yeah, I mean, just, on the last point, obviously Ubisoft, if we move on, just sort of the takeaways from this, really for there to be substantial change, it would have to come down from the top, the CEOs of the company, like people like Bobby Kotick and the likes of those, like actually prioritizing players over shareholders, which is frankly never going to happen. But I mean, in the perfect world, that would need to be what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Is there any takeaways from this? You think that we could do to?
Jeez, there's nothing that we could do except just beg people to stop falling into the trap, because otherwise video games are just going to continually get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think we've said all we can say on that, really. Lastly, just wanted to quickly say to any of the listeners out there, what's your views on AAA studios, especially the greedy ones? Have you had any experiences with being burned by AAA studios ripping you off? If so, we'd love to hear about it. Feel free to drop a comment down, and we'll have a read and see what you have to say. If you have any of those sort of comments on anti-consumer moves in general, again, pop them in the comments and we'll take a read. With that being said, we can move on to segment 2, which is about sexism, really, in gaming. And we're going to be looking specifically at women just being able to enjoy gaming in a competitive manner, not necessarily at both a non-professional level and at a professional level. And this is the area of focus particularly that I wanted to look at, or that we wanted to look at rather at Ctrl+Alt+Debate.
Yeah. It's a harsh one, isn't it? Because really it's down to individuals behaving like complete arses.
Absolutely. I mean, think that it's basically men just demeaning women because they don't think that they belong there, and it's just terrible. It's just atrocious behavior. Harassment, all of this kind of stuff. It makes me feel sad, and it makes me feel embarrassed to be a man in the gaming space, because I've played with a lot of female gamers over the years of gaming online, and all of them have been, just regular nice people. Like, if you just treat them like human beings. Unfortunately, some men feel that it's more important for them to their ego to get in the way, and this pathetic thing like men getting upset about being beaten by a woman in a game. How pathetic and small minded, and just a massive dick, really, to even have that as a problem, and just realize that you, just because you've been beaten by a woman, who cares? It's like, get better then. Play, it's like they're just a better player than you in the game. Just accept it. It has no.
Yeah, exactly.
It also doesn't even matter that it's a woman. Who cares? It's just a player was better than you. Like, it's just, I don't know. I will never understand the mindset of men that have that kind of perspective when it comes to playing.
I mean, there's some really sad folks out there. I mean, they like send death threats and stuff. I mean, it's insane, honestly, that they think this is a perfectly normal way to react to someone beating them.
Yeah, and also, I mean, other things as well. It's just like, the stories of online streamers that have been harassed by other men, or people like giving them a hard time, just saying that they're not good enough, or that they don't belong in the place, or they've been carried. All of this crap. I think Pokimane had one of these problems where people said she was carried in Valorant, and I've seen her play, and she's a good player. Like, that's it. Accept it. For all those men out there that are like, think she's been carried, she's not been carried. She's just a good gamer, and she's good at Valorant. Just accept it. Like, get over yourselves and start to like just treat everyone. It doesn't treat everyone the way you want to be treated, man or woman. Like, and move on with it, because this kind of thing is just ruining the gaming's relationship. With certainly, like, women feel a bit disenfranchised by this because they feel have to go into a space that's still male dominated, but I don't think that should matter.
Well, it's bullying them out of competition as well, isn't it? So these guys that don't like being beaten by a woman, effectively they're diminishing their opposition in a competitive space. And in some respects, you could call that cheating in other sports, couldn't you? External factors before a match, if they were perpetuated by the individual that they were playing against, that would be considered cheating. And this kind of abuse and insult being aimed towards women that quite clearly in these particular scenarios or situations are better than them. It's unsportsmanlike, I think, is the best way of putting it.
I would say go a bit beyond that. It's unsportsmanlike, literally, like women not feeling that they can talk in gaming spaces like through voice chat because they'll get sexist comments or harassment. Being kicked out of lobbies because they're women, all of this kind of crap that women have to put up with in games, it just needs to be deleted from existence. And also being undermined in esports is a constant thing. I remember some people where there was a female gamer in a team, and then she had to try like 5 times had to make her, herself known 5 times more difficult to get into the team than it was for like any man. Even though she showed like clear skill potential way beyond some of the other guys that were also in the team or other team members in other equal esports teams. So it's just, that kind of thing needs to be gone. Will it be gone? I mean, that's the question. It still remains a very big part of esports and competitive gaming, where females in the gaming space feel like they can't really get involved. I mean, you have to be someone that's willing to have what I would say is, what does it say? Thick skin. If you're a thick-skinned woman, I think you do all right. But if you're not one of those people, you have to deal with a lot of shit, and they shouldn't have to. Bottom line.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, that's another one I wanted to bring up. Men being angry at female protagonists in games. That's funny to me as well. Oh no, it's a woman. It's a protagonist.
Ridiculous, right?
Oh,
no. We've
My
played games all over the years, right? I mean, Christ, you got Tomb Raider, is one of them.
but
Horizon Zero Dawn. Like,
Aloy, Aloy.
Yeah, I mean, what's the big deal? Like they make perfect sense for their story. A game developer is making a game based on what they think people will like, for the most part. Others is obviously for money, but for the most part, they're meant to be for people that they believe people will like this particular run. And if someone's angry at a protagonist just because it's female, I think it says a hell of a lot more about the person that's angry at it than the developer themselves. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. If you just look at all these, we've already gone through like 4 or 5 points that are just, all of them are just horrific experiences, and I just, like, it just makes me sad. I mean, it also just looking at some of the other things here, like the comparison versus other countries in the world. I'm just looking here. In Japan, South Korea, and parts of US, female gamers report higher levels of harassment and more ingrained gatekeeping. And gatekeeping, obviously, has an element of not just gatekeeping from females, but you look at like Dark Souls series or From Software games, which I love. There's a lot of people that don't want people to come and join the franchise that are noobs or people that aren't like super pro elitist. We're going to be talking about that a bit later on, actually, on the segment 5, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But people gatekeeping, and also for women as well. This is the problem. It's men gatekeeping women from joining in on certain games or types of games that they feel like should only be played by male people. It's just pathetic.
It's quite interesting that it is places like Japan, South Korea, and the parts of the US as well. Because if you think about societal influence, they're sort of quite conservative in terms of like gender norms. Like women are sort of quite proper, or expected to be quite proper. Whereas in other places that are less hostile, like you've got Sweden, Canada, and France here, they're usually pretty free about how women exist in society. There's no big deal. They do get on and do whatever they want, and for the most part.
Well, I don't know. Wouldn't necessarily agree with that 100%. They have more traditional gender roles in places like Japan, where like they still have that old school.
Considered a conservative, though. That's considered conservative.
I don't know. know. I'd say it's just behind the times. Like they have like more of a 1950s mentality where the man goes to work and the woman stays at home and cooks food and cleans the house. That's what I meant. Like, so obviously women are subjugated. That's why that kind of thing in gaming. Men think that in those countries can think that, you know, oh, this is a men's, you know, sport, you know, gaming is a man's thing and women should stay out of it. That's why they're getting all of these problems. I mean, it's notorious for people in South Korea and Japan to get into gaming teams. You very rarely see a female gamer in the top esports games teams in Japan or South Korea. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, those are the places that needed more development than, say, the West. And even then, I think Europe, actually, I'm proud to be a European because I think we're actually probably the leading area in the world when it comes to balancing that kind of thing and having equal genders sort of working together, enjoying games together without so much of this harassment and all of this other bullshit we've discussed previously. So, yeah, hopefully that will extend to other parts of the world slowly but surely over the years. So anyone out there that's been listening to this segment, what are your experiences with sexism in gaming? Have you seen it? Do you see it often? Does it not happen for you? You know, what's your views on that? We'd love to hear that. Again, feel free to drop a message or a comment on that. We'd love to hear. We have actually got a comment there, I think, from someone. Let's see here. What are the players doing in these communities to prevent or stop sexism? Just acknowledging it exists solves nothing. Completely agree. I completely agree with that statement. Also from my girlfriend, so I'm glad that she's. But
I'd say the other players that are playing that experience, or not just the ones that experience it, but the ones that witness it, should take stand and say, "Oi, no, you need to shut up. Let them get on with playing the game." I don't see the.
I do that in lobbies if I hear that. But the thing is, it's rare to hear people do it. What you tend to find is like a group of people that are all sexists in a group by themselves, and then a woman comes in, and they all gang up on her. You won't find these kind of people in the general sort of public in the general lobbies, because there's always going to be, most people are decent. Most people, I like to say most people, but unfortunately the all of these kind of sexist people, they all group together. It's like, you know, white supremacists or any other sort of hate group, they all group together and then they go around causing trouble. So if I hear someone being sexist, I will 100% call them out in public. I don't care, because it's the right thing to do, you know. But yeah, I look forward to us moving forward with that in the future. I don't want it to be like this anymore. And hopefully we can make strides in solving this. Hopefully the sooner the better. The sooner the better. All right, let's move on then to segment 3. So we're going to be looking at facts again. These some cool facts that we have from gaming history or from more recent times, and we're going to jump into these and have a little breakdown. The first one is the first fact is the infamous ET extraterrestrial Atari cartridge database disaster. Sorry, disaster. Yeah, not database. Well, there could be a database, but yeah, not a disaster. This is the one about them. This bizarre thing about they had like the ET and it didn't sell, and so they went and buried it all in the sand somewhere out in Arizona or something. A bizarre thing, isn't it? It was a crash. It was the middle of the gaming crash in like 1982, which was actually the year I was born. So I don't remember much of it, but I remember it was a massive thing in the historic thing. How much do you know about it, Kraken?
Not a huge amount. I just know that apparently the game must have been completely bloody terrible, and or didn't work, because you don't just send video games back, especially not back then. I mean, it's the fact that they had to fill it and like do a desert landfill to get rid of all the extra copies was mental. I mean, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
How badly you create a game that it has to be buried, literally.
Yeah, I think it was just massively panned by the critics, and it just basically died a horrible death. And they made so many of it because they thought it was going to be a massive hit like the movie, I mean, E.T. the movie was massive. You know, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Obviously, the game not so much a classic, more an absolute disaster. So it's considered one of the biggest failures. I mean, not so much now since we've had what do you call it, that Concorde game. I think that probably breaks some records in that respect. Was it how many hundred
cost
million?
wise.
Yeah, but I mean back then it probably was equivalent level, because costs then weren't the same as now. If you account for inflation and stuff like that, it was still a massive.
They probably only had a few people working on it.
Yeah, I mean, gaming industry was much smaller back then in general. So, but like that's what I'm saying. You need to account for change, for variable change, like versus today. I still think it was at the time. I mean, gaming was crashing. It was dying off kind of, and they needed to, they had to revive the industry at that point. I mean, now it's funny because it's now bigger than all other entertainment out there, which is hilarious. But back then it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those sort of examples of that always comes up. People always bring up the ET thing because of the fact they had to go and bury like potentially thousands of these cartridges out in the middle of nowhere. And
I mean, it even if it did contribute to a bit of a crash, at the same time, I think it did contribute into a bit of a bonus as well, because it highlighted the need for testing and actual quality assurance on video games, because I think back then there was virtually none, wasn't there? So yeah, I mean, so it's a bit sort of a double-edged sword, that one. It caused a lot of crap, but at the same time it would have made things better in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I think sometimes you got to lose to win kind of situation, and look at the gaming industry now. It's just flying, So thanks ET, and thanks to Atari for making that absolute stinker, so that we could enjoy games now in the modern era.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the second one. This one's one of the ones that I always wanted to talk about on the podcast because a lot of people know about it, and this is the original Final Fantasy, which came out in 1987. Was under a huge amount of pressure. I was going to say Square Enix, but Squaresoft it was at the time, because obviously Enix the merger, but Squaresoft the company, or was it just Square? I think Square. It was just Square then, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They had some stinkers again that they brought out prior to this game, and there was a real sort of point where they were just like, we don't have much money left, and they were like, well, what should we call the project? And we're just like, well, we need to create something that's gonna keep the company going, and that's why it's called Final Fantasy. Probably, I don't know if
because it was their last chance.
It was their
last chance.
So it's so cool that now it's a franchise that probably everyone in the game industry, anyone that likes RPGs, knows that name. It's had movies, it's had films, it's had spin-offs, it's had all kinds of stuff, and in the industry it's just ultra now, and I just love the fact that it came from something that was literally the last ditch attempt, and that was the one that got them what they needed, got them the money, got them the returns, and they were able to create sequels, and thank God for that, because some of my favourite games have come out of that. And yeah, it's just such an interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah. No. It's imagine being working for that company, and it's literally like, if this game doesn't work, then you're out of a job. Like, the whole thing goes under.
Yeah,
it's a very appropriate name.
It is, and also the fact that that game could have been a disaster. I mean, they just got the formula right for that, and it was just the right time, right place, and they were able to deliver on that. I mean, Final Fantasy, the first one, I've played it and completed it now in the reformatted version for PlayStation, and it's generally considered one of the worst ones now. Not because of just because of the basic limitness of it, but at the time it was really quite a groundbreaking release, and that's why it probably exists now and continues in being an integral part of the JRPG experience in the modern era. Okay. The next one we're looking at is the Doom franchise, revolutionizing FPS games, but it was almost never released. How much do you know about Doom? What's your opinion on Doom in general?
I mean, not a massive amount, but it was the first ever like fully 3D game, wasn't it? So, I mean, there's that. So even in terms of FPS games, and before that, you had Castle. Was it just Wolfenstein? I think.
Wolfenstein 3D, yeah.
Well, no. Wolfenstein was it Wolfenstein 3D? Because that Wolfenstein was actually just 2.5D.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was just called. I mean, I'm not entirely sure because I'm not like a massive FPS fan, but I do remember Doom being like a massive part at the time. It was revolutionary in terms of the FPS genre. I mean, prior to that, it wasn't really that big in the gaming space.
It sounds ridiculous, but it was the first one that you could literally actually turn your camera, in a circle. Like before on Wolfenstein, you'd hit left and it would do a full 90-degree. So you're going through a map that is effectively a bunch of square corridors, and you're picking your path.
I'm not sure that's not how I remember it. I remember Wolfenstein was fully three-dimensional as well. Maybe you're
not the one before. Not the one before.
Maybe it's the one after then. I remember Wolfenstein 3D, which was an early version. Maybe Wolfenstein the first one. To be honest, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say. But I remember there was a Wolfenstein that was before Doom because the graphics weren't as good.
Yeah, it wasn't just the graphics. It was the actual engine for the 3 dimensions. It didn't actually have full 3D because you effectively used 2D images for the screen. And you were picking a route like you would in those old RPGs, where it's like you walk down a dark corridor. Do you open the door or do you turn left and go on? It's stuff like that, kind of like that.
I'll take your word for it. I don't recall personally. I thought you could have full 3D movement in Wolfenstein, but I haven't played it since I was like a child, so I don't remember. To be quite honest, I'll take your word for it. But when it was released in 1993, it was a global sensation. It was like in terms of the entire world of gaming, pretty much bowed down to that game. And I remember playing LAN gaming in my dad's office with members of his of his company, and I would sit there on lunch break playing Doom with like 10 other people. Over LAN. It was just such a cool experience and something that I think was a major turning point in gaming history. And Doom now still continues in its very popularity. Doom Eternal? They got a new one coming out, I think, as well. And also great music, some of the best music. Doom. If you're a big metalhead, some of the best riffs come out of that guy as well. I think got shafted. The guy that wrote the music for it, I can't remember his name. But he had to go through a whole bunch of problems. I felt really bad for him that he had all the hoops he had to jump through, and he never really got the respect he deserved, considering the music he wrote for the game. But yeah, that's another story.
I think the studio was saying that he delivered it late or something. He had a time frame and he didn't deliver, so they fucked him off. Which, as long as it was before it was really needed, it shouldn't have been a big issue. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame to lose a contract that way.
It really is, yeah. But it's it's the fact that made Doom so impactful. Experience FPS games that we have like Call of Duty are thanks to the likes of Doom making such a huge impact on our gaming genre. So yeah, all you people out there playing and enjoying your battle royale, in Fortnite or in Call of Duty, your thanks come really from Doom, and that's how great a game it was, and it still remains great to this day. Okay, so the next one is the first ever video game that was created. A lot of people, this is one that I think a lot of people think, probably anyone that's watching this now before we talk about this is probably thinking, what's the first video game you think? And they'll probably think Pong, because Pong is like the one that's probably universally the most well-known early game. And I think even at one point I thought that until I looked it up, several years ago, whenever it was, and we had the internet. But it's actually a game called Tennis for Two, which was out in 1958, which was like an oscilloscope, which was like a back and forth. It's kind of like Pong, but before the true introduction of video game graphics, so to speak. It was like before that existed, but it was still technically a video game because it was on a video screen and it was portraying a image. I know you have an opinion on the stuff that came before that, that's kind of, you know, games and stuff like that in digital format, but this was generally considered the first, you know, quote close quote, you know, video games. There's not really much a lot to say. It's just more about this an interesting fact. Did you know this prior to looking into this? Were you aware?
Not this particular one. I always thought it was this tennis one, but I didn't. I thought it was before Pong, but I can't remember what the hell it was called. I knew Pong was a very, very early one, but I do remember the one where you got the two paddles on each side of the screen, just bouncing it back and forth.
Yeah, I always wonder like how video games would come about if we were destined for video games no matter what, because even people didn't think about how to make games with the digital like tools that we make. Someone had to create that, and eventually it's turned into the massive giant that we have today. It's a fascinating thought that we went from that to what we are now. But it kind of makes sense. This is an interactive movie, so to speak. You know, people do want that.
People like things that distract them from the real world, don't they?
Absolutely.
Be it books, music, movies. Games is just a kind of logical sidestep on those as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, that one's, I think that was nice and short, the last one. But before we move on, we'd just like to obviously ask our audience, people listening out there, what gaming facts shocked you the most of the ones we discussed here, or not necessarily shocked, or were the most intriguing or interesting? If they, you know, let us know which ones you liked, and you know, any crazy gaming facts yourself. If you have anything out there, we'd love to hear your takes. If you do have a thought or an opinion, or a take or a fact or something you want us to take note of, drop it in the comments and we'll consider it for a future episode. And we can move on to segment 4 now. The next one, which is hot takes. I mean, we've done this a few times on Ctrl+Alt+Debate, and it's the segment that keeps on giving. So as long as that exists, we will continue. So yeah, let's get into the first one. First hot take is games are too long. The era of the 30-40 hour game is over. God, I hope not. But let's hear your views on this, Kraken. I want to hear what you have to say.
I think this is an interesting one, because for me personally, I don't think there can be a game that's too long. It's more about the session time for me. Like if I have to stick around on a game for hours and hours on end in order to feel like I've made any meaningful progress, then that's quite annoying. But if I can hop on for an hour or two, that's not too bad. That's fine. It's no biggie. As long as I can get some things done, that's cool. If I sort of get past a section in the story, excellent. The 100 hour plus experiences, I don't see as an issue. If your game is that good and it keeps players playing that long, then more power to you. You've especially considering the price tags on games these days, like the longer they are, the more value for money you're getting, as long as it's not just dragged out content. You know, as long as it's not drawn out deliberately so that people get bored. I mean, it's just one of those things, a personal preference, really. Some people like very short games, like, you know, arcade fighters or whatever, and other people like RPGs that take them 100, 200 hours to clear, and will even play a second round again for that platinum. But yeah, it's down to the individual, isn't it, at the end of the day?
No, I completely agree. I think, you know, looking at this, we need to sort of like review the situations that people experience in gaming. You know, for instance, like you said, bloatedness in games, like padding stuff out. I mean, some people think, like, for instance, one of my favorite games of this last year, last year I think now, but like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's just an amazing game. It's got lots of content in it, like hours, hundreds of hours of worth of content. I think I did like 250 hours on that game. And it was a lot of people complaining about it being bloated and stuffed with mini games, and I didn't feel that. And I think that comes into then your opinion of what people feel. And I think it's no matter what you do, someone will like it and someone will hate it.
And probably some people that love those mini games, so it's not bloated to them.
That's the thing, isn't it? Though it's really in the eye of the beholder, isn't it, on what they think's good and what's bad. And it's whether it comes out on top, generally good or generally bad, will determine that. There's some games that put a load of bloat in it that's not fun, and those normally
as long as they're not required for completion, that's the key, I think. I mean, if you're trying to go for platinum, then yeah, sure, having all these extra bloats might be a bit annoying for some because they want that platinum. But as long as those mini games are just mini games, then it's good for everyone because they can take it or leave it. But if someone is like a platinum whore, then yeah, you kind of bug it. You got to play through all of those mini games.
Yeah, agreed. I think really until, like you said, I don't think that a lot of people try to say this as if it's a thing. Like we should stop making long games, and that era is ending because people want short. It's more about the fact that people have small time. Attention spans now, and that's why we need to change. And I don't think we need to change. People need to increase their attention spans more, and just allow people to enjoy like long games. I enjoy long games. I feel like I get, like you said, more bang for your buck. May they continue, because I don't want to play like little 5-hour experiences and be charged 80 quid for the benefit of that. I'd rather get my 100 hours plus out of it and feel like I've spent money well spent. So yeah,
to be honest, just to call on my favorite game again, Ark. With the worst studio, with one of the worst studios ever. But the one in the early days of that game, I played it from early access, and if you wanted to tame a brontosaurus, like a max level one, it could take you in excess of a day. It was ridiculous, and that meant guarding it. Building a whole house around it so that the wild, like if a T-Rex came along, it wouldn't damage it, and that would ruin your taming efficiency and blah blah blah. But thankfully they've reduced that quite significantly. But stuff like that, I think, is just unnecessary. I mean, there is making something hard, and you got to work for it, sure. But a sort of task that literally means that it has to be looked after. And yeah, you've got tribe mates, and if you had 10 20 people in your tribe, they could take it in turns in looking after it, but no one wants to be sitting around, so you effectively have to like chuck all the berries onto this thing, make sure it doesn't wake up. You set yourself an alarm to get back in time so that it doesn't wake up whilst you're offline. It was mad. And games that do that, no, just a straight up no to me now, because if you got work, you can't do anything. It's basically saying this game is not for you, and that's rubbish. That is rubbish.
No, I agree. But that actually brings us interestingly straight along to the next point of the hot takes, which is gaming is becoming too much like work. Where's the fun? Yeah. Again, this is definitely a divisive take, because I happen to be one of these people that enjoys that. As much as that sounds bizarre to some people, I enjoy the grinding aspect of stuff if I have to collect things. It really depends how invested I am in the game, but I don't mind doing a bit of grinding. I play Monster Hunter, for instance, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the series and the games, and it requires a lot of grinding, but I find an element of enjoyment within that. I don't find it a chore, whereas some people definitely would find it a chore. So
yeah, me being one.
Yeah,
I
can understand
someone with your with someone with your sort of proclivity towards collection. You're learning each time you fight those monsters, so it's not a loss. For me, I don't know. I just don't really feel like trying to go back and continually try and get the same piece of a monster. That bugs me. Like if I've knocked off its horn, I should get its bloody horn.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that really annoys me. It's a cool game. Like on the surface level, I could happily watch other people play it. I've not got a problem with that. But for me personally, yeah, it is one of those ones I find a little bit too grindy.
Yeah, but can you give me a bit? Can you give me a bit more though? Because I think for viewers as well, because I don't really understand your take. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't. I can't. There's nothing I can other than the fact that you said you want to. If you hit the horn, you get the horn, right? I mean, that's the only thing that I get from that, which doesn't tell me a great deal. It just means you don't want to grind for anything. You just want things to be given to you.
Well, no. But if I manage to break the horn, and there's like, let's say, 2 different versions. You've got like what, horn plus or horn normal. I don't know. You could just like, if you break it off and it's sitting there on the floor, you should automatically have the horn.
Well, you do kind of.
Surely.
You do kind of.
Does it really work that way every
Well,
time?
if you
But what about pieces from the main body as well?
Well, no. Well, hang on.
You've got an entire carcass there.
Well, let me explain. So if you play the game, like if you smash the wings or you smash the head, you will get like an item that's one of 4 different items that will drop from that thing. Obviously, the rarest ones will be the horn.
But they have a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a chance. Yeah, a chance. Because yeah. But
I mean,
all they've done is added some other materials to make it harder for you to get it guaranteed.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't really find that fun. You know what I mean? Like, if I had really bad luck, which, let's be honest, sometimes when I'm playing games, I really do. I could kill the same monster like 20 times, and I wouldn't get the piece that I want. And that would really bug the crap out of me. And it's just things like that I'm not really willing to leave up to chance. When it's a battle that lasts can be up to an hour, depending.
Would you prefer it was given to you first time and then that's it?
No, not necessarily, but the chances should definitely be increased. I mean,
to what?
It just feels like, if I'm fighting for an hour on one of these monsters and then I don't get it, that means automatically, especially if I'm a working person, right? And I've only got a few hours after work to play, so I get 3 runs on this one particular monster, and let's say that day I don't get the item I want, then my 3 hours of gameplay has been collecting additions of stuff that I don't really need anymore, because I've probably got quite a few of them at this point, and that just feels wasting to me. Like, I just don't like it. I don't know how to put it. I just really don't. To
be fair, that's a better explanation than the previous one. I mean, that I can understand. If you feel like your time's been wasted, I mean, that to me makes some level of sense. However, I would counter that with, when I play these games, I don't play them alone. I play them with friends or people, other people and I find that to be the source of entertainment. It's like going fishing and not catching a fish. You still enjoy the element of fishing, right?
Well, yeah, you just enjoy the nature and the quiet.
Well, exactly. The other aspect, or just playing the game, or hunting, or doing the aspect of the actual playing of the game, as opposed to worrying about getting what you get from it. That's how I see it. But I I guess it's just a matter of perspective. I don't think there's anything wrong with either take, to be honest. And in my opinion, go on.
Grinding to collect items for me is especially items with chance. Those I don't like. Grinding to collect items if I require a certain number of them, if they're going to help me, like make a weapon or a piece of armor or something, then yeah, fine. As long as they're not a random chance. Grinding EXP, I can deal with that. That's no problem. It just takes a bit longer, whatever. But yeah, as I said, grinding items that have chance, that's my pet peeve, I think, when it comes to certain games. I don't like grinding for chance items if I require them for a weapon upgrade or an armor upgrade or something. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Fair enough. I am a fan and will continue to enjoy it, but I think there's room for everyone. It's just I don't think it's a case of the fact that these games need to go, nor do I think they're not fun.
No, not
Is
at
it like trying to make it sound like it's a job? Maybe for some people, but not everyone. I think it's just dependent on the personality.
I can fully see why people enjoy playing the game. I do. It's just not something that it's just not for me.
I guess that's the weird thing about hot takes, though. It's not really that hot when you just consider the fact that people are different, and that's it. That's really what it is. It's not a hot take. It's just one person's perspective. One person's job is another person's, fun.
Yeah,
in that respect.
Exactly. It's lukewarm takes.
Yeah, that one anyway. There are some other ones that are more, but I think this one's just a matter of perspective. It's not about being fun and escapism. Like it's saying, reading some of the points that I saw about this was like people saying it should be about fun and escapism. Why can that not be about fun and escapism? Just because I got to collect stuff or I'm grinding, that's not a chore for me. It's a chore for you or for other people. That doesn't mean that everyone has that take though. Like just understanding.
No, of course.
It's just horses for courses. I mean that's literally what it is. Yeah, good take. That was a good discussion. I enjoyed that. That's the kind of ones that we really like, where you have an opposing factor. I mean, obviously we were able to put our points across there, so that was a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed that as well, watching. Let's move on to I think this is the last one in this segment, which is also another interesting one, which is skill-based matchmaking is broken. It's more frustrating than fun. Now, I absolutely agree with this take. Not that I play competitive gaming, but it's one of the reasons I don't play them, because of how frustrating it is. I don't think you've really played them at all, right, Kraken? These types of... No. Where, gold, silver, platinum, rank 1, rank 2, that kind of thing, You know what I'm talking about, right?
Wait, if you're playing like certain PvP games, and let's say you earn enough points to jump up to the next rank, like sometimes it can just suddenly turn into a bit of a shit show, can't it? For people like me anyway, because I got to be honest, my skill level with certain games is just not good, straight up.
But that's the point, though. I would have enjoyed
playing more at the lower level, because it's not really skill based. It's what your medal is, and you earn points in usually quite a fairly mundane manner by like number of kills or something. So that automatically bumps you up to the next level, and then you're in an area that's not fun for you anymore.
That's kind of my point. And you also hit this wall where you'll just go and you're winning, you're losing, you're winning, and you don't really go anywhere. What I should think they should do is they should have separate divisions where they put people so that people can still... I mean, this is a bit like, I don't want to sound like the participation trophy type man, because I'm not that person at all. But I think breaking lobbies down into like a wider pool, not having everyone in one single world, have limited people, and allow people to move up and down ladders in those, and then they can progress into other bigger ladders when they feel that they're ready to go to do that. So they can.
But then you get griefers, wouldn't you? Because they'll deliberately drop themselves down.
I don't know what the solution is. So I love this as a premise. I do agree with it. Skill-based matchmaking is a real hot topic in competitive multiplayer games right now. And the theory to match players of similar skill levels, it doesn't work, and it often leads to a lot of people feeling frustrated, and due to the unbalanced nature of the experience. And I think we need to work on a better system that works more functionally and provides more enjoyment and less frustration. How do we do that? That's a very good question. I do agree with the fact that you're either destroying people or you're getting absolutely destroyed yourself, and that's not a good balance in my opinion. That's just poor balancing. They need to work on making a system that works better. Competitive gaming for me is not something that I enjoy doing. That's me personally, but it's mainly down to this problem, not to do with anything else. I just feel like you would get absolutely trounced. If I go into an FPS game, I'm not very good, but I go in and I get absolutely murdered as soon as I go in. I should be going in with other people who are also the type of people that will get absolutely murdered, so that I'm playing with other people that are of equal skill level, not going in there with people, as you said, that are just going to trounce me. It's not a nice experience, and not gonna.
It makes it more fun when the field is balanced and you've got a level playing field. If you're going in and there's people that know every single nook and cranny, and they're spawn camping or whatever, it is no fun, and people will either rage quit or they just stop playing gradually. So it's not good for the game itself either.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that this is really a grind-based experience. I've just spent the last 10, 15 minutes or however long arguing about grinding being really fun. But this kind of grind, I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't think it's fun at all. There's grinding, in a group to collect stuff, that kind of grind. But grinding against stuff where where I feel really you just bang your head off the wall repeatedly, is not fun.
Especially if you require wins for points that get spent in a store, you know what I mean? Because then it becomes one of those games that is potentially going to become a victim of the microtransactions because of that. Because then they'll start selling coins so that people who play in multiplayer battles to earn these points, once they go into the higher tier and can no longer win, they then feel like they have to purchase the coins in order to buy stuff from the store. Which, again, is just all stuff that's detrimental to the gaming platform.
Yeah.
The individual titles.
Couldn't agree more. But again, I think we're not going to solve the solution here because neither of us really think are invested enough in those competitive aspects to really come up with something that would work. But I do hope that someone that comes up with a better way to handle competitive gaming for just the casual scene, as well as semi-pros all the way up to pros, have something that's a bit more fun. I mean, it's frustrating more than fun in my opinion. Until they resolve that, I will remain a viewer rather than a player of those games. But just I guess that would be it for segment 4 today. I'd just like to say, if anyone's got any opinions on any of these takes we've had about skill-based gaming, have games become too much like work? These conversation points that we had, are gaming too long? The 34-hour game periods, are they too much? What's your opinion on this? Drop your comment below. We'd love to hear from you on those things as well. And definitely we'll respond to anything if anyone's got a particular take on those. So we'll move on to the final segment for today, and we're going out with a bang with this one, which is tryharding in gaming rather. This is another, again, links into the competitive aspect of gaming, competitive gaming mentality versus casual escapist gamers colliding in often a casual setting. Sometimes
elitism for the older folks.
Elitism, sweatiness, whatever you want to call it. All of these types of try-harding for the younger viewers. Whatever you want to call it. People that have a mentality that gaming or playing games should be a work, should be a job, and everyone else needs to think and treat it as such. I hate it. I used to be an advocate of it, would you believe, in my early 20s. I feel like young people have more of this mentality, and the older you get, you find the absurdity in the statement. But now I hate it. I dislike it in every manner. I think people just want to play games and chill and have fun. And back in the day, it was almost like a badge of honor. I wanted to be one of those try-hard people because I wanted to be a special snowflake. I remember thinking, I used to be a gatekeeper as well. I used to be all those things. Like gatekeeping, not in a way that we were talking earlier, but I meant like I beat this really hard boss, when I was in my 20s. I know I wanted to be a special snowflake, and no one else, don't reduce the difficulty on it. Don't make it more accessible. That kind of thing. That's elitism, really. And now I despise it in pretty much all of its entities. What do you think? What's your opinion?
I mean, it's just straight up toxic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it will ruin any game if it gets to too higher a point. And the only types of people that will be in there will be an incredibly bunch of toxic, angry, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it would just make a very unwelcoming place to play. And games, in essence, are meant to be fun. And if you've got the other players, especially in an online format, that are just being dicks all the time, then it's not going to be fun, is it?
The argument
that game will go down.
The argument against it, which I have to give, is that you're talking about in the general sense, like in casual gaming where you're just playing some casual games. But if you start looking at things to overcome like difficult content, it's somewhat necessary to implement that kind of elitism, because if you don't, you're going to have people that aren't up to the standard you need to be able to complete content, and that would then create frustration and problems, and a lot can lead to further anger and toxicity.
100%. But at the same time, when you let's say you're doing a raid in WoW, right, and you have a misstep, and then other members of your raid party start calling you a noob, and it's like, okay, fine, but if it was your first time in there, you got to learn somehow. You don't just automatically know what's going to happen. And a lot of the time, people, especially way back when, they used to get really bloody aggressive.
No, yeah.
Like really aggressive about it, and it was kind of crap, really.
I think you're talking about I think you're talking about like people that have coming into like a first experience in raiding or something that are joining a probably.
I'm just using that as an example. I don't mean that for just WoW. It's like there are certain situations in certain games that there is a learning curve, and some of them take longer than others.
What about elitist amongst other elitists? Do you think it's okay then?
I mean, they're always going to clash heads, aren't they?
But if you want to overcome something difficult, what I'm trying to say is if you become something that's extremely difficult to do and you need 10 people to do it, and if you got 2 people that are just not up to scratch, what are you going to do? You're going to have to like have that discussion.
You end up kicking them, but you don't have to be abusive about it.
Oh no,
just be like,
no.
Sorry guys, you're not geared. You're not experienced enough. I need people that actually know this particular bit of content. So I'm sorry, but out you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, yeah, you fucking noob. No, that's horrible.
Yeah, totally.
There's no reason for that.
No, I agree. But the problem is that a lot of people that are in elitist circles aren't necessarily elitists themselves. Sorry, they might be elitist in mentality, but they might not actually be skilled, which creates the problem. Because they'll be toxic. They'll be like, I'm going to kick you out because you're not up to scratch. And they'll be like, I'm perfectly good at this game. And then they'll have to be back and forth or arguments about the quality of their playing. And that's where you get all the toxicity, and it can get incredibly try hard in those situations. I've been in these situations having played at those kind of levels. And I don't like doing it anymore. I've pretty much retired from that. I just don't have the patience for it. And people expect a very high standard constantly, and it is incredibly stressful. So I prefer now the gaming that I do, which is laid back. No expectations. People are just playing to have fun, and it's really the best way to enjoy games, in my opinion. Bottom line, but that might just have been like age and wisdom, because
maybe yeah. You develop a certain amount of patience for loss, don't you? So you're just like, oh well, we can try again. No big deal.
Exactly.
Other people take it like it's a slight on their existence.
Well, I've been on Wild. I was on Wilds with my friend Obsidian Shinobi. Go and subscribe to him out there if anyone's listening. He's a great live streamer and content creator. But I was also, prior to that, playing with my Monster Hunter group, playing on Monster Hunter World, and I spent 3 hours on Fatalis, which is like the hardest dragon boss, and we didn't kill it a single time. Now I could be like really frustrated about that and just think it's a waste of time, but I had fun, and it's a learning curve. It is an extremely hard fight.
Bunch of noobs.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, buddy.
I could do it with one hand tied behind my back.
Well, I'll bring you along, Tom. That's something. Well, hang on, what are you talking about? Look at you at Sekiro. You haven't got past even the sub boss yet. So
mate, I know. I wonder how many double kicks to the face my guy can take, especially right after a resurrection. Well, I barely situated myself, and I'm back on the ground again.
I think we're Wednesday, hopefully. We haven't locked it in yet, but there'll be part 2 on Wednesday. So plugging that as well. Kraken will be getting through, hopefully, the ogre boss. So look forward to that.
To be fair as well, that was most annoying because I felt like I was finally starting to find the right sort of stride for the fight as well, and they were like, we've got to end it here.
Well, look forward to that. Hopefully we can see the completion of that first fight and move forward, and we'll look forward to doing that on Wednesday. Lastly, just I
was just going to say, otherwise it's 3 hours of the same guy.
Well, I look forward to that as well, because there'll be plenty of me laughing at you. You know how it is. But yeah, just last thing, anything from today's podcast, we'd love to. I know I keep saying this, but we'd love to hear from you guys. If you've got any comments, please feel free to drop them. And we hope you enjoyed today's podcast for Ctrl+Alt+Debate. We try very hard to put together some interesting, insightful commentary on stuff in the industry, and we will continue to do so. That's really it for today. And as always, that's a wrap on Ctrl+Alt+Debate. Keep the peace, pixels, and power-ups.
Don't rage quit. We'll catch you on the next level.
Or until your controller gets more airtime than your gameplay. Until next time, see you on the next level.
Ciao, guys.